Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of I'm Not Gonna Be Quiet. My name's Danica, and I'm your host. If you have been with me since the beginning, or if you're a first-time listener, I want you to know that this is a space where folks step into the circle of community to share the path that they've traveled to find liberation after periods of staying silent about their experienced pain and harm. In each interview, we get a chance to hear and learn from our guest what they refuse to be quiet about, what their silence cost them, and the price they paid for their freedom. I'm here, you're here, community has been established, so let's get free together. I'm really excited about our new guest, another TikTok find. Her pronouns are she, her, and hers, and her name is Anne-Marie. I'm really excited to meet with her because I stumbled across her videos and she was kind of telling my truth, right? She is the CEO, the founder and CEO of Anti-HR Consultancy. And so she was doing a video about, what it's like to work in a hostile work environment where there are tons of microaggressions, landfills of microaggressions, and how to create an exit plan. This was my story. If any of you have tuned into the first episode of season 1, you know that's my story. That's what kind of catapulted me into creating this podcast. And so video after video, she was giving great tips and sharing other people's journeys. And I thought, I need to have this person on my podcast. So welcome, Anne-Marie. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. Hi, everybody.
Can you tell us a little bit about you and where we can find you?
Sure. So my name is Anne-Marie. I am the founder and creator of the Anti-HR Consultancy. I am known across social media as the Anti-HR HR Lady. And I am a recovering attorney and a recovering operations and HR executive. I worked in those in the HR operations arena for 20 plus years, probably closer to 30, but I like to say 20, and in the international development arena in that function for about 15 years. So I have worked running the inside of companies, specifically HR and IT and finance and all of those things for a long time. So I have a pretty good understanding about how all of those things work and its impact on employees, especially Black women. So I created my company because it was very clear to me that there's something wrong with HR and that there's something with HR, the way that people, employees, especially Black employees and specifically Black women, understand HR, right? Employees as a whole, I think, have been bamboozled, took and led astray where in terms of understanding what human resources is about. And so when I decided to free myself from not just the whole, capitalist apparatus in the United States and corporate work environment, and I moved abroad, but I was trying to think of what I wanted to do. And I decided that I was going to create a business model based on my own experience leaving a discriminatory, hostile work environment, not 1, not 2, but 3 times, and being paid to do so and teach other people how to do it, because it was very clear to me that people did not understand that this was an option for them. I spent time inside of a group on Facebook for Black women who want to leave the United States. And over, I would hear people talking about these horrible work environments, and why they wanted to leave was very much tied to how much they hated their jobs, right? And not just, people don't understand that how much they hate their job is connected to the whole, white supremacist system in America. But we could go down that rabbit hole and stay there forever. But they did not understand. They would say, I want to leave, but I don't have the money. I don't have a savings. I kept hearing people say that. And I finally raised my hand and was like, you don't need a savings. I left. And the reason I was able to leave was that I made my employer give me the money that I needed to leave. Right. And so, and if I experienced what I experienced, I know some more of us are experiencing it. Even some of us that don't even talk about it. Right. And so I was like, if you know how to do this, you can make them pay you. They can give you the money so you can leave. You don't have to have a savings. So that's kind of how the whole idea of my business came to me, was that I kept hearing people say they couldn't leave. And I just thought, well, I left and I didn't have a savings. So maybe I can turn this into a business model for other people to teach them how to cash out of work environments that are discriminating against them.
So brilliant. So brilliant. Because I think you're right. Like I said, one of the things that, drew me to you when I stumbled across your page was like, you were telling my story. I don't know any Black woman who has worked in any space, whether it's for-profit, nonprofit, and has not experienced some type of egregious microaggression.
There is no space in the United States, America, where you will not experience it. So there is no space. And the thing is, I think that when we are in these situations, we think we're the only ones. And that is one of the reasons why I decided to go on YouTube and talk about this stuff, was that I wanted people to know that actually this is not uncommon at all. And one of the things I tell people all the time is that it's not, you need to know this. And what I'm teaching you to do is because this is not going to happen to you once. It is likely, it's not a question of when, if, it's a question of when and how many times. Not a question of if. If you are Black, and especially if you're a Black woman working in any kind of work environment in America, not just corporate, any work environment in America, it's not a question of if you're ever going to experience discrimination. It's a question of when and how many times, and whether you know what to do about it when it happens. But it's not a question of if it's going to happen. It is going to happen, even if you don't recognize it. Because now that I look back, I know that I experienced it in other places. I just didn't recognize it. But it happens to us all the time. And racism is it's benign in America. It's not, people keep waiting for somebody to use the N-word at the water cooler. And that's not how it happens.
No.
It's very benign, and that's what makes it so harmful.
Yeah, it's so insidious. And the measurement that they use to seek justice is not realistic.
At the water cooler, and someone better have taken their phone out and been doing this, and that, because otherwise they'll try to say it still didn't happen. That Kyle didn't mean it when he said it, right? So it's so benign, because to really understand, and I think most of us don't have it's not that we don't have the capacity to understand, we don't even have the time to understand, because most people, you're just trying to get paid, pay your bill, and just exist, which to me is very sad. But most of us, that's how we live our lives, right? And so you don't even have time to really think about why. And that's one of the questions I ask my viewers all the time to assess, is the why of what is happening. Not the what, but the why. Because the why is what's going to get you to the check, right? So it's like understanding why we live the way we do in the United States is the thing, right? And understand that you're a second-class citizen, and it's permanent. And you can, people don't like to hear me say that, but it's true, right? And if you understand that, then you understand everything else that is happening, right? So, and then you have to decide what you're willing to do about it. That was my thing. That's why I left, right? There is no escape from from white supremacy, no. But there are places where you deal with it less. And I just wanted to be somewhere where I dealt with it less, right? Because in America, white supremacy is not the shark, it's the water. It's everything. It's all around you all the time. It impacts every single thing that happens to you in your life as a Black person from the day you're born. whether you see it or not. Everything.
That's the piece. That's the piece. I'm going to ask you to repeat that again. A little bit slower, because
I don't remember who it belongs to, so I don't want to act as if I made it up. But white supremacy is not the shark, it's the water. It's everything. It's everywhere. It's all around you all the time. So if you think it's that one time that the white lady asked you if you lived in your building, you don't get it. It's not just that. It's why does she think she has the right to ask you? Yeah. That's the real question. Why she believes, and she doesn't even realize that it's wrong for her to ask you, because her ancestor owned yours. And even though she might not own one of you anymore, she still has the mindset of an owner, because that's what's been passed down from generation to generation with white people. It's epigenetic. You can't get rid of it. It's part of who they are, whether they choose to acknowledge it or not. And so everything they do comes from that. And if you as a Black person don't understand that, then you're never gonna, and you have to learn it and understand it. Before I learned to do what to do about it, I learned how to deal with white people, because you cannot survive if you do not have a PhD in white folks. That's what I 100%. Tell people. Understand you better than you understand you.
Yes, right? you right. There's the whole premise of like, you have to understand the master and use the master's tools.
Survive them, you must understand them. 100%. To navigate their system, you must understand them, and you must understand them better than they understand. Some of them can't even acknowledge that a system exists, but it does. They can't acknowledge that it exists, but it does, right? They can't acknowledge that because it means, to me, the reason that white people will not do anything about racism in America, anywhere else, is first and foremost, it benefits them. Whether they're willing to admit it or not, it benefits them. They like it. They don't like to be told they're racist, but they love to do racist things, right? And so for them to admit that there's a system means that they might have to do something about it. So it's easy for them to just be like, oh, there's no such thing as white supremacy, they're like, these are all one-off things. But I'm like, it can't be one-off, because it happens all the time. Your whole systems are built around the idea that Black people are less than human and second-class citizens. That's what it is. Because why else would you allow these things to happen? You wouldn't allow it to happen to you, right? And there are gradations in this thing, but at the bottom of the pyramid is Black people, always, right? And everyone that comes to America knows it from the beginning, the inception of this country. The Italians came, the Irish came, and what did they all have to become? White in order to make it. And they had the ability to do that. Right? Because the idea is always, even now to this day, Africans come here and they don't want to be Black, but you are. They want to be a different Black. And I'm not attacking Africans. It's the system that teaches you that. Mm-hmm. My parents are Caribbean. It's the same idea. But at the root of it is white supremacy, which is the parent of racism, colonialism, which is just a sibling of racism. So don't think because you weren't slaves, you're a slave too. You're just a different kind of slave. That's what I tell African people all the time. You're a different kind of slave, and it's worse for you because they took your country over and didn't even kick you out. And you put up with it. You allow them to do it. And to this day, most of you don't even realize that the British and the French and the Spanish and all of them, who are still controlling your financial systems to this day, what do you call that but a different kind of slavery? So no matter where you go, you can't outrun white supremacy. It just shows up differently in different places, and it's less in different places, even in Africa. And I've been to over 40 countries, and several of them in Africa, and you see it. You see the same things that you see in our workplaces, the desire for white proximity, the desire to think that if you're a good enough servant, they'll treat you better. And it never works out that way. But you see how it's been taught to us, not just in America, but everywhere. And most of us don't even see it because we're just trying to survive and make it every day. But once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Right. That's that dissociation, but it's like, it's really hard for me to call it dissociation when you are. And I understand it's a defense mechanism, and defense mechanisms are designed to protect us. But when you willingly go into it, which is a type of fawning, another defense mechanism.
Not willing. The thing is, because I worked in international development, I got to see some of this stuff from a different perspective. It's not willingness. It's taught. We were all taught that whiteness is the gold standard. Every single one of us. And you have to make, because of the struggles that Black Americans went through in the United States, and the understanding that we had to make a choice to love ourselves because nobody else was going to do it, and to constantly teach ourselves and teach each other that we need to love ourselves. And we're not there by any stretch of the imagination, but we're at least acknowledging that there is that necessity. You don't see that in other places. You don't see that in the Caribbean. You don't see that in those places in that way. I'm not saying they don't love themselves, but I don't think there's a conscious, because in those places, everybody's Black, right? So people think, well, everybody here is Black. I don't have to think about that. But then you got people lightening their skin. I've never seen more jump and go get it, step and fetching than I've seen on the continent. And I don't say that with any glee. It breaks me every time I see it. It upsets me so much in a way that it doesn't even upset me in the US, because it always is shocking to a certain extent to me when I observe that, because you think, oh, that shouldn't happen here. But that's what colonialism did. Right. Because even though everyone that you relate to that you see is Black and your family is Black, the people who have all the nice things don't look like you. The people, for the most part. And the ones who have all the nice things did wrong things to get them. So you're trying to emulate them. You're trying to emulate the people who you think got it the right way, right? That's what they tell you, right? Mm-hmm. America loves to talk about the corruption in Africa. They don't like to talk about who brought the corruption to Africa. But they love to talk about the corruption, but not who's doing the actual corrupting. So it's this idea that we've been taught everywhere that whiteness is the gold standard. And so wherever we go in the world, we carry that. So we think as Caribbean people and African people that if we come to America and work hard, we will be okay. And that, those Black Americans, they're just lazy. They're just this, they're just that, because we've bought into the images that we've seen on cable, because what we have to understand is that the idea of what people think Black people are, especially Black Americans are, a lot of it has been taught through television, right? I remember thinking that Black Americans were lazy and all these things because my parents were West Indian. I was taught that. Then I realized that I was Black American because I was born in America. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, right? But it's this idea that you watch these TV shows. And when I was young growing up, because I'm in my 50s, everybody that was Black on TV for the most part were the criminals and the prostitutes on the TV shows. Because I'm even like rewatching some of the shows now on Hulu that I watched when I was a kid, and I have so many issues with them. But when I was younger, you just kind of accepted this idea, or they lived in the projects, good times, or they were shucking and jiving and a clown if they were rich, the Jeffersons. Right? So you think this is what Black Americans are, and it's not true, and it's never been true. How can the people who built this country for free be lazy? How? How can they be lazy? And not the people who went all the way across to the other side of the world to buy other human beings so they wouldn't have to do no damn work. Who's lazy? And killed and murdered people and threw them overboard. Who's violent? Right? But if that's the narrative that you've been shown and taught, and it's that we've been taught, they're trying to take, all this stuff out of school. I'm like, for what? Y'all ain't never taught us nothing anyway. This is what you taught us, right? So why would you not think that as an immigrant? They have literally sent these images of us everywhere. Why would you not think it? So it's something that you have to come and unlearn. And sadly, for a lot of immigrants, they unlearn it when they realize that they're a nigga too. Oh. I'm just going to say it.
You said
it. In my own family, I've seen it elsewhere. That's when they understand.
Yeah.
And it's very painful. It's very painful when they understand. But that's how they learn. When the police officer shoots their son or when the whatever, that's when they learn.
Yeah.
You're not going to be treated any different by this system than Black Americans are. They don't care whether you're Black from Africa, brown from Sri Lanka. They don't care. You're not white. Hello, some of my Mexican brothers and sisters. But in America, you're not white. You start talking, you're not white to them. And when it's time, they're going to give you, as the late, great Paul Mooney says, nigga wake up call comes for us all. It comes
100%.
in one shape or form. So if you refuse to see it, eventually you won't be able to not see it. What you do with what you see is the other question, right? But you're not, it's every single one of us finds out what this is, whether we want to or not. So for me, it was about teaching people how to use that to benefit themselves, because the system is what it is. We can't change it. You know, if we could change it, it would be fixed, right? They have to change it. They have no desire to change it. They will not. They will not change it.
And I feel the same way. I have zero investment in changing it. Like there was a period where I thought, you know, this is the work that I'm doing and it's going to contribute.
It's not my struggle.
It's not my labor anymore.
My struggle is freeing as many Black women as I can from these workplaces with a check. That's it. I have no other interest. So if other people benefit, that's great to me. But I always try to be very clear. I recently did a video where I said that I don't do this for y'all. If you learn something, that's great. And I've had white clients. I don't have anything against white people. I'm not racist. Black people can't be racist. We can be biased, but we can't be racist, which are not the same thing, because we don't control the system. So I can't stop a white person from getting a loan at the bank or getting into college or being, you know, any of that stuff. I'm not racist. I don't trust white people, and I say that openly, because why would I? I don't trust them. I take them all individually, but I don't trust them collectively, because as a Black person, you can't afford to do that. I learned that, and they taught that to me, right? My parents didn't teach that to me. White people taught that to me. My parents are devout Christians. They taught me to love everybody. And I went into the world and learned that I could love everybody, but everybody would not love me. And so I needed to distribute my love a little bit more thoughtfully, right? And as a Black person in the workplace, you can work with white people, but you cannot trust them. We can't even trust a lot of our own, much less them, in the workplace. So I have clients that are white. I have anybody that I think is dealing with discrimination at work, right? But I created this business for Black women, and I make no apologies for that. I created Black women. Feel how you ever want to feel about it. I tell white people all the time, don't follow me I don't care if you follow me or not. I don't care what you think about what I say, because I'm not speaking to you. I'm not doing this for you.
So I just want to pause here and acknowledge that I appreciate that you came in and hit the ground running. I align with so much of what you're saying. And I think what's really special about this moment is that we are headed towards a tipping point. This is a part of the revolution. I think there are so many individuals that are now making up pockets of folks who are doing the work to decolonize their mind, which is what I'm hearing you say. That's what you've done, right? When I heard you say that you're a recovering lawyer and etc., I imagine a part of
all the things that you were told that you must do in America to gain first class citizenship. I did all of the things. I had the nice car or cars. I had the nice house. I had all of those things. And then I realized that I was still a nigga. And that's what I was going to be. And that's what I was going to be. And having those things wasn't going to change. And a big paycheck. None of those things will protect you. None of those things will protect you. They won't.
So let me ask you this. So I do want to get into the questions real quick, because I know you also have limited time, but I'm still curious. How do you, and maybe can you even help folks who don't even understand this?
I can't.
Right? You can't.
I can't.
Okay.
I can't. I'm specific. I am a YouTube saying the things that I'm saying because I want the people who can understand it to understand that they have options. And so I teach people how to recognize discrimination, how to document it, and how to communicate about it in a way that will get them a check. But I can't get you mentally to where you need to be. Once you get there, recognize that it's the water and not the shark, I can help you. But I am not here to change anybody's mind, to decolonize anybody's mind. That is a job, that is an inside job. Mm-hmm. Right? And until you're ready to see certain things, you won't. And I don't care if it takes you until you're 90. I mean, my dad is over 90. And I think it was in the last 20 years that he was willing to say that America isn't what he thought it was.
Yeah.
As an immigrant. And the regrets that he has because he didn't recognize soon enough what it was, right? And so I think that people have to get there through themselves. I have a sibling who for the longest time was the biggest apologist for white people, right?
Really?
And it used to drive me crazy because I would be like, can't you see? And then she woke up and she saw. And once you see, as I said, you can't unsee. Because you work hard and think that if you keep doing this and you keep doing that and you do this thing and you do this other thing over here and you do this thing, that they'll treat you better. And then you realize, even if they do treat you a certain nicely, it's because of what they're getting from you, not because they care anything about you. And once you are no longer valuable, you will be discarded without a second thought. And that's a really hard thing for people to, and that you're easy, and in their mind, you're easily discardable because you don't have the same value as them, right? And so I think that that's a thing people have to come to for themselves. I can't help people come to that. I don't try to help people come to that. I have lots of Black people come into my DM, well, not lots, but enough, come into my DMs and talk crazy mess about, oh, not all white people. And I'm like, okay, this is not for you then. If you don't understand what I'm saying, because yes, it is all white people. If people ask me if I think all white people are racist, yes, I do. I do. And I don't believe, and I don't say that means I think they're evil and they're going to go out and hang a Black person from a tree. But you have to understand what racism is. It's a system and a structure, and you're all participants. You are a participant in this and a perpetuator of this, willingly or unwillingly. Right? I just did a video for white people about what they need to do if they really want to do something about discrimination in their workplace. They come in and they, what can I do? I'm like, listen, believe, and act. That's what you can do. But don't pretend that you're not a participant. You are a participant, a perpetuator by birth into this system. And if you don't want to be, then every single day you have to actively engage in dismantling it. And unless you can show me exactly what you're doing to do that, I don't want to hear nothing from you. To be honest, I don't want to hear anything from you because I'm not interested. Right? Because that's all it is. And the first step is you have to accept that you're racist. And white people struggle. Their biggest struggle is to create a system where we can't say they're racist. That's what they're doing now, that you're not allowed to say it. But it doesn't change the reality. This dystopian, reality that they're trying to create, where you can't call a thing a thing. We can see it now with what's happening in Palestine, right? That you're not allowed to call a thing a thing.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you suffered genocide in 1932 and now you're perpetuating in 2023. Genocide is genocide no matter who it happens to. And your history of experiencing it doesn't make it okay for you to perpetuate it against another group of people. And this idea that I can't say that, and if I say that I'm anti-Semitic, I don't know what to tell you. But the truth is the truth no matter who speaks it.
Yeah, it's gaslighting to like the nth degree. And I feel like that's what a lot of
resolutions, you want to pass laws to tell people that they have to agree with you and have a Zionist view. I'm sorry, no. And it's what is happening across society. It's not just the United States, it's across the world. This idea that you can say a lie, and if you say it forcefully and as many times as possible, and you hold a gun to somebody's head, that your lie becomes the truth. It doesn't. It doesn't.
It's one of the most useful tools, and really a very fundamental tenet to like executing like macro level racism. I feel like that's what a lot of Black women encounter.
We have, at the root of all of these things, and I always tell people, all roads lead to white supremacy. Everything. 100%. When you look at what is happening in the Middle East, when you look at whatever, all roads lead to the same thing. When you want to understand the conflicts in Africa, across the continent, and why these people can't live together, all roads lead to white supremacy and the West interfering and going into these countries and carving them up for their benefit, right? And then they sit back and act like they don't understand why, we just want peace. No, you don't. You specifically did this so there would be no peace. Capitalism and white supremacy, that's what it is. And so everyone just sits and acts like they don't understand. It's really not that hard to understand if you choose to read a book and you choose to understand. But
And,
instead, everyone wants to, throw up all these red herrings and things in order to deflect. And that's what we see a lot. It's like, look over here, look over there, look over here. So you're not seeing what you need to see, right?
Yeah.
And if people don't see, then they don't have any reason to act.
And I think for women, Black women who work in these toxic work environments, there's a lot of gaslighting that takes place. And because Black people are weaponized against other Black people, and I think because it's usually coming from the head down, so many participants in it, they feel like their truth they start to question their truth, which is the intent. That's the whole point with gaslighting.
Of what HR does. That's what I tell people all the time, is that you don't go to HR and raise any concerns with HR until you've done 3 things. You have clearly identified what is happening to you is discriminatory. Mm-hmm. You have documented it carefully. And documenting it means documenting the differential treatment that you are experiencing based on your membership in a protected class. Not too many people come to me in discovery calls, and I ask them to describe the discrimination, and they tell me my boss is bullying me, or my boss is, or this person is doing this. And I'm like, but why are they doing it? And what have you documented to show the why of what they're doing? And we come up with these laundry lists, because gaslighting, microaggressions, none of this stuff means anything unless you can show that it's happening to you because of your membership in a protected class. And how do you do this? By paying attention to your workplace. Paying attention to your workplace. Who is it not happening to? That's the question. It's happening to you, yes. But who is it not happening to? And what do they look like? And who are they that it's not happening to? Document that shit carefully. Then make a decision that you're going to leave the company, because you can't stay. You can't do the things that I teach you and stay. And too many people want to stay in slavery. They want to live like massa, but they want to be a slave. No, ma'am, it don't work that way. And I won't even talk to you if you tell me you want to stay, because I don't help people stay in work environments that are harmful to them. So that's the third thing. People think it's going to HR is the third thing. Actually, no, it's deciding, what am I prepared to do? Which is one of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself. It's easy to sit and talk about what people are doing to you. The hard question is, what are you prepared to do about it? Are you willing to go to the mattresses? Do you love yourself enough to do something about it? Or are you just comfortable talking about what is happening? And a lot of people are very comfortable being martyrs. Black people have been taught to be martyrs. We have been taught that somebody goes in a church and shoots everybody, we should pray for them. No, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in martyrdom, especially in a country that doesn't care anything about you. People that don't care anything about you. They took this boy for Burger King, and then y'all are talking about you're gonna forgive him? Seriously? So I just am like, we need to love each other and ourselves enough to say, no, I'm gonna make them be accountable. And what I have just learned is that the system isn't gonna change, but the system doesn't like to spend money. The only thing you can actually do to make white folks act right is to take money. That's the only thing they care about. It's the only thing they care about. So my thing is, if this is what the system is, this is how you leverage the system for your benefit. You take that money, go do whatever you want to do.
Let's go.
Buy a house, buy a car. I don't care what you do with the money. And that's what I tell people. I don't take any of the money that you get. You pay me my fee at the front end. And I don't care. I've gotten people up to close to $200,000. I don't care about that. I don't take any of that money. That's yours. Knock yourself out. Go do whatever you want to do with it. Because the only thing they understand is when they have to cut a check, and a good check.
Yeah.
A whole other conversation, right? That's what capitalism understands. So that's what you have to leverage.
Yeah, you have to speak in the same language as your oppressor. I love the work that you're doing. Again, I'm going to get to the questions immediately. I just want to say that the work that you're doing needs to happen right when someone accepts a position. They need to understand that HR is
not your
like, they're the same as the CEO. They work to protect the organization. And I think everything you're saying is spot on.
That's why they exist. And what's fun, what's so insidious when you talk about the insidiousness of, racism, to me, it's white supremacy and capitalism together, is that HR, a lot of HR professionals are Black and Black women.
Yep. There's a reason for that.
And the reason, but the reason that a lot of us go into it, right, is that we think we're going to get to help people. And we really believe that when we initially go in. I know lots of recovering Black women who are were HR professionals, right? And they think that they are going to go in, and then you learn over time, because no one ever tells you you exist to protect the company. Oh no, that's not how they get you. They tell you you're going to get to help the employees, and you got to love people and be a people person and advocate for the employee, blah, blah, blah. That nobody tells you until you present a problem that matters. And how the company behaves and what is expected of you is what tells you why you're there. And some people do it over and over again, and they learn to live with it. And as long as the check looks good, they'll keep doing it. And then a lot of us leave because we can't do it. That's why I left. It was a combination of, first of all, the dealing with my own discriminatory, but also I decided when that whole George Floyd thing happened, and I saw my company was trying to use it to give themselves a gold star, and I was like, I can't be a party to this. I cannot. Yeah. Because I've seen this movie before, and I know that America is not going to change because they saw a Black man get killed on video. I'm like, that isn't going to change anything. I don't care how many companies made statements. I knew that it didn't mean anything. And I was like, I will not be used as the only Black executive and the person over HR as a mascot for bullshit. To lie to Black people and brown people in this company and make them think that things are going to be different when I know they're not. I'm not going to do it. And that was a tipping point for me. I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not participating in this anymore. And a lot of us are not willing to do that because the check is good. My check was very, very good. But at some point, you have to care more about other things. The thing that I understand, money comes and goes. It always comes and goes. So I'm like, I don't need them to make money. And I don't need to sell my people out to make money. And I was just like, I don't care. I'm not willing to participate in this, knowing how racist y'all are. You're not going to trot me out in meetings and have me say that the company is different. I'm not going to do it. Because none of those DEI programs and all staff meetings and nice little statements, that don't do nothing. I was like, unless you are willing to fire people, take bonuses away from people, that's the only thing that y'all understand. Firings and people not getting promotions and not getting things like that, and having very clear requirements for hiring and so none of that stuff doesn't matter. And if you're not willing to do that, I'm not participating in this. Because I've seen this movie before. I know how it ends with Black people being disappointed because they believe you. And so I was like, go get somebody else. And they did. They went and got another brown person. Clearly she's doing the dance because she's still there, but that's okay. But I was like, this person is not going to do the dance for you.
You've said so many wonderful things. And I think this is going to be such a good like how-to video for so many Black women. I can't wait to edit it and publish it, because you certainly spoke on who I was, right? I worked at a violent, racist nonprofit. I knew they were targeting me.
I was in the nonprofit world for my entire career. I could write a book, and maybe someday I will, about the nonprofit and Black people. Why Black people should never work at nonprofit, really, but should work nowhere, but particularly nonprofits. And I recently wrote a blog about why I thought nonprofits were the worst employers for Black women. The worst. And that's a high, I mean, you've climbed the mountain of racism, right, to be number one. But to me, they're the number one industry because of the lies and the pretense. Because of the lies and the pretense. Because people go into that sector because they want to do good, especially Black women, because they think the mission. And so when you start seeing the company acting in complete opposite of what it says its missions and its values are, and then the amount of gaslighting, because there's quite a bit of white women, and they are they got championship level gaslighting skills, and they're in there trying to tell you that what you see isn't what you see. and what you know is not what you know, and that you're the problem and not them. And the psychological harm that comes from that.
Yes.
That's why I think they're the worst. Because
they absolutely are.
The Googles and the Apples and the Bank of America and all of them, and I've gotten money from all of those companies for people. But you expect corporate capitalist companies to do egregious shit. No matter how many Black Lives Matter statements they put out when George Floyd died, right? You know that they're saying that for the money. The NBA, all of them companies, did, you know. But for some reason, we want to believe the nonprofit. We want to believe the Planned Parenthoods, and we want to believe, you know, the Voice of America, and we want to believe those people are different, and they're not. So it does it because what I want people to understand is the structure and the system. It's all around you. If you are Black, because that was my thing. You think you're gonna go in and change? You can't change nothing.
You can't. And then, but I think
yourself crazy trying.
Right. But I think every person has that kind of come to Jesus moment where they recognize,
and it's hard when you're in a nonprofit because to do it, you have to be a true believer. And so I stayed in the sector because I wanted to work for companies that helped other people. I could have made a lot of money as a lawyer in a law firm. I'd have been an excellent litigator. But I was like, I wanted to work in companies that were doing things for people here and abroad. And it was deeply disappointing.
Yeah. When you say that, it makes me remember my experience. There was the CEO hired all these Black people after she was found to have racist practices and policies. One was a Black lawyer, and he did her work, right? He chose to participate in the weaponization of Black bodies against other Black bodies. And he would like pull me in his office and try to intimidate me into signing a new contract with a different title and all this mess.
They often use us, and what we have to, and I talk about that a lot on my channel because I want more of us to look at ourselves and question what we're doing at work.
Yeah.
As white folks, because I still say all roads lead to white supremacy.
100%.
You have to question what you're doing at work against your own people and how you're being used, and recognize, right? Because there are things that they do and they say to try to get you to do the us them thing. You know, you a good Negro. Those are the bad Negroes over there, but you are a good one. A lot of us allow ourselves because we want to be the good, favorite, and only Negro, right? And my thing is, if you're Black, and I've said this before, and you come into a company that's all white, and by the time you leave, they ain't at least 10% Black folk working up in there, you haven't done your job.
Come on now.
I could say anywhere I went, I would blacken up the joint.
Yeah, that was my role.
Here. We need some Black people up in here, and we're gonna have some people up in here.
Yeah.
Okay. They're gonna be qualified Black people. They're gonna know what they're doing, Black people, but they're gonna be Black people.
100%. 100%.
I'm gonna go out and get you. And white people don't like that when you do it, but I wish somebody would have come and told me something about it. I wish you would. With all these white folks working up in here, who's gonna tell me I can't? Nobody. Because to me, having power means nothing if you're not willing to.
If you're not using it and sharing it, right?
What's the point of having it? And so when I had it, I hired a whole bunch of Black folk, right? Not saying I didn't hire white people too, but I made a conscious effort to hire Black people because they were never any of them there, right? Because they hire each other, but then we come in and we feel that we got to hire them too. For what? For why? I had a friend tell me, well, you know, everybody else is on my team, so I feel like I need to hire the white boy. I said, for what? I said, he can get a job anywhere.
Never will I.
Anywhere.
No. Yeah, the interesting thing for me is since I was in graduate school, I always maintain I would only use my privilege to benefit other Black women and men and children. And then it became Black women. And then it became only the skin folk who act like kinfolk, right? And that's it.
The way that it works now, and you see it on television, you see it all across the media and so on, is that they're using people that look like us. They're using us against each other now.
Yep.
And so you have to do that evaluation a lot now in the workplace and elsewhere about, yeah, you're Black, but who are you really?
Yeah, most of them are seeking proximity to white.
I spend a lot of time talking to clients and potential clients about how to deal with same race racism, because it's an actual thing and it is illegal. Yeah. And that's one of the things I want people to understand. It's illegal. It's harder to prove. But again, if you assess your work environment, you'll be surprised. Because my thing is, do they treat the white people on the team the same? Do they treat the brown people on the team the same? And a lot of times they target the Black people because they think they can get away with it because they're Black. But the EEOC says that you're not allowed to discriminate against anybody. And it doesn't matter whether they're the same race as you. If you can show that there is differential treatment that is having a negative impact on you because of your membership in a protected class, it don't matter who your manager's color is, because your manager is the company and the company is your manager. So it ain't just your manager doing it to you, it's ABC LLC.
Right.
And that's what we need to understand, right? But you got to assess your work environment. And too many of us stop at, they're being mean to me, and we don't go to, who are they not being mean to?
Yeah, that's such a good question.
Like
right. Because, I mean, you can see the glaring differences.
Oh, so, yeah, because they know they can't do that to a white person. So if they got a white person on the team, they know way they doing that to Kyle. They'll do it to Shamika, but they ain't talking to Kyle like that because they can't. Because Kyle will be in HR, and HR will do something if Kyle goes down there. So they ain't gonna do it to Kyle. They're not doing it to Kyle. So you gotta pay attention. Stop focusing so much on what and get to the why. And who else are they? Who else are they not doing? Who are they not doing this to?
And the thing is, these nonprofits, just racists in general, they're so arrogant. So everything is usually wide open for you to see. Like it's all there.
And they never have appropriate structures to protect themselves when you come for them.
Yeah,
they don't. And that's why they will cut the check. Let me tell you, they'll cut the check because they don't have no inside counsel. And usually they got some pro bono law firm that's really only interested in doing specific work with them and not protecting them against no discrimination claim. So it's like, if people understand how all this stuff works, you'd be surprised how fast they'll cut a check because they're out of order. And they just, a lot of employers, not just nonprofits, rely on your ignorance as an employee.
Yeah.
Rely on our ignorance, on what we don't know. You know, what I'm doing is really about educating people to their understanding of their rights at work.
Yeah, I love it. So you've talked so much about your experience in different spaces, profit, nonprofit. You've talked about these pivotal moments that have helped shape you, right? In terms of decolonizing your mind, divesting from colonialism, capitalism, and etc. So I'm curious if you can succinctly say one thing that you have refused to be quiet about.
Well, I refuse to be quiet about what HR really is, because that is the thing that I decided that I would not be quiet about, because it was very clear to me that people didn't understand what HR is and why it exists and what its true function is. And HR is a risk management apparatus of a company. That is what it's they're there to protect the company from you, the employee. And so, but what they have taught employees is that they're there for them, which is a lie. It's the big lie, right? In corporate America. Yeah. And I mean, people learn, but most of the people that have left. But the people inside of there are taught, and you come into working when you're young. You don't know yet. And so you believe it. And so what I am really, really committed to is not being quiet about why human resources exists, and giving employees information to protect themselves, because you do need to protect yourself from the first day. You have to come in understanding that no one's going to protect you but you. And that means you start documenting from the day that you get there. I tell people that all the time. You don't wait till something bad happens to document. It's like you're keeping a work diary. And you keep that diary, because if you are carefully documenting your work environment, and that doesn't mean you got to sit down, go home every day and journal, but I always tell people, journal their week at the end of every week. And if nothing untoward happened, then you say it was a good week. I had a meeting with my boss. They said I was doing a good job. I had a staff meeting and I'm working on this project, and that's it. but it will allow you to see when things go awry very clearly, whether it's when a new boss comes in that don't like Black people, whether it's, you will be able to show everything was fine until this person came, or until I raised my voice about this thing. And then all of a sudden, I was getting negative feedback, right? If you were journaling all along, the biggest mistake that we make as employees is waiting for something bad to happen before we put pen to paper. So if you are keeping copies of your performance reviews, taking notes at your one-to-one meetings with your manager, and keeping a journal, you will be well positioned that when it comes time, not if, when it comes time for you to cash out of a workplace, you'll be ready. You'll be way ahead of the game. So yeah, that's what I won't be quiet about. I really want employees, especially Black women, to understand that they cannot trust HR. HR is not there. They're not your friend.
I love that. And you kind of already answered some of the other question, right? Which was like, what was the harm or hurt that you were experiencing? You talked about that George Floyd moment. That was pivotal, where they wanted to use you.
They wanted to mascot me. And I just was like, I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to be used in that way, because the company had a lot of racists in there, and a lot of like actively racist people that we had talked about. And I was like, you're not going to try to rewrite history now and trot me out and try to make me say that things are better. No, they're not.
And so you clearly answered, how did you break free, right? You left the jobs, you went to different jobs, and then eventually you left this country. One thing that I'm curious about that you haven't said explicitly is like, when you were silent before you left, what did that silence cost you?
Everything. I was very unhappy. And because you're swallowing things every day that you know are not right. You're seeing things that you know are not right. And you're pretending that you don't see them. And it doesn't matter how many nice handbags you have. It doesn't matter how many shoes. I had over 300 pairs. It doesn't matter how many things you can acquire financially. You're still unhappy. I was very unhappy, because you have to keep making yourself smaller and smaller. And that's what I felt like I was being asked to do in every job I ever had. That you're not allowed to really say what you think. Even when people ask you to, they don't really want you to, as a Black woman, right? They don't want to hear about what they really need to do to fix the environment. And I'm in HR, so they're constantly, we want to fix this and we want to do this, but they don't. And when you tell them what they need to do, they don't want to hear it, because they don't really want to do anything about it, right?
Yeah.
And you keep going from place to place, and the same thing keeps happening to you, right? So it wasn't any one place. The first job was a Black woman. The second job that had to pay me were a couple of young Jewish men who were racist as hell. They used to walk around the office talking about how they were God's chosen people, things like that. And then the third place was another place where, again, they wanted to trot me out and mascot me. So it's like, you keep going, and they weren't the only places. There are other places that I could have made, there are other places I could have made pay up. I have big regrets about this one job that I didn't, because I had everything, right? But you just be tired sometimes, and it's like, you just want to leave.
That's what they want, right?
That's in for 6 weeks because the woman was the handmaiden of the devil. I could have made them pay too. It's like one place after the next place, and you have to, at some point, I'm like, I'm not crazy. I'm not a bad person, and I know what I'm doing, because that's why people hired me. They hired me to come in and fix their operations, and I did. So it's like, it's not me. So what is it? Over and over again, right? It's the system.
Yeah, that's the pervasiveness of racism. Yeah. I did a video last week. You'll never be able to outrun racism. So I appreciate you saying that.
It's just because people don't understand that white supremacy doesn't just negative impact Black people or brown people.
No.
It hurts them too.
Yeah.
It has killed their ability to be empathetic human beings.
Yep.
And how can you be a fully functioning human being when you have no empathy, right? No empathy towards other human beings. You love your dogs more than you love other people, other human beings. What kind of a society can you have when you don't have empathy? And it doesn't just affect how we get treated. It's just that we get treated the worst.
Yeah.
But they catch a cold, we catch pneumonia, but they still have a cold, right? And so it's like anyone who pushes against this system will experience the same thing. I don't care what color you are, because I've had white clients who have come to me because they tried to push against something that they saw was wrong, and they found out real fast that whiteness isn't just about your color. It is a system. And if you are not willing to be in step with the system, the system will cast you out. It will cast you out. Just like
immediately you become the target.
And so they, they don't understand. They be the most confused ones when they come to me, because they can't believe that this is happening to them. Right. And that's what I tell them. Whiteness is not just what you look like. It's a system. And you had the audacity to challenge the system. Right. And so the system is letting you know you either going to go along with what's going on here, or you too shall be on a PIP. You too shall, but it's a system. And so for me, it's like, there's no benefit to us to try to change this. It's too pervasive. To me, it's like we have to figure out collectively as a community honestly, to me, the answer is that Black people have to go more inward. I think we need to go back to segregation, honestly, without the Jim Crow, from a financial perspective. Do business with other Black people. Make sure that a majority of your money is going to Black people, Black businesses, Black brands, Black whatever, right?
Yep. 100%.
And more of us need to become entrepreneurs and do business with each other, so they can go ahead and do what they want.
Right, because they're already doing that.
They don't like to hear us say that, because they need us for their system to work. They need our money. And
they need our money.
I always say the one thing that we have, the power that we have that we do not exercise effectively, is our financial economic power. And that to me is the thing, is that we have to understand the system. We have to understand how to leverage the system, which is why I do what I do, because I just want people to get their money and go about their business. Right. And then you can go start. I have people who have started businesses. I have ex-clients who are traveling around the world with their money. I have people doing all kinds. Some people have gone and just got another job, and that's fine. I don't think there's any right or wrong thing to do with your money. I just want you to get it and get yourself out of these environments. But I hate when people tell me, oh, I wish I had known you. I was in this situation and then I just left. And I'm like, damn. Because it's good that you left, but did they cut you a check is my question.
Right.
Because they need to pay people. They need to be made to pay.
Yeah.
Like on a large scale, they need to be made to pay. Right. And so I'm like, even if you didn't meet me in time, go talk to a lawyer, see if you still have time to do something. Don't let them get away with this stuff, because too much of them are getting away with it, and they rely on our ignorance. They
their silence.
They know that a majority of us are not going to do anything, and that's why they keep doing it. So I just want to know that we have options as Black people, and especially as Black women, the mules of the universe, that you don't have to stay there and take it. Don't take, not for a day, not for a week, not for 6 months, and God, for not 10 and 15 years.
Anne-Marie, you have given us such useful information that if we breathe it in, it will transform our lives, right? I appreciate you sharing your experience, your tips, essentially a guide to getting free, right? A guide towards liberation. It's critical, right? It's critical at this critical time in our lives where the world is rapidly changing and countries are falling. Zora Neale Hurston said, if we're silent about our pain, they'll kill us and say that we enjoyed it.
We liked it and say that we loved it.
Right? So I appreciate you not being silent. Thank you for spending this time with me on I'm Not Going to Be Quiet. Tell us where we can find you.
You can find me at my website, which is www.theanti-hr-hrlady.com. And you can find out, through that website, you can book discovery calls. You can get access to my online course, which is right now on sale. It is called How to Exit a Discriminatory Hostile Work Environment, with how to ask for an exit from a discriminatory hostile work environment with cash and actually get it. And so it is a course that will take you through the steps that you need to identify discrimination, document it, communicate it to HR, and ask for your exit.
Thank you so much. Sister, be well. Thank you, everyone who logged on to listen to this. Until then, let's continue to get free. I'll see y'all next time.
Thank you.